Hi, I'm Eliza. I'm a Curatorial Assistant here at Kettle's Yard, and the sculpture that I'm going to talk about today is this work just behind me. It's Barbara Hepworth's Three Personages, which she made in 1965. And this was a point in Hepworth's career when she was actually becoming quite well known, quite famous. She'd had a big retrospective in London in the late 1950s, and in 1964 she'd had a big commission for the UN building in New York. So she was really quite well known by this point. And Hepworth's work in the 1960s is quite recognisable in the motifs that she's exploring, and we can see it here in Three Personages. This idea of repeated motifs, repeated forms. Here we see the upright triangular forms that form the three personages. And Hepworth was really inspired by the way people congregate. We can tell from the title, Three Personages, that these forms might be understood as people, as figures. And it's said that this was sparked by a visit she made to Venice in the late 1940s, and St Mark's Square in particular, where she observed the way groups of people congregated and the patterns that they formed. We might also read significance into the number 3 that we see here. Hepworth had triplets in the 1930s with the artist Ben Nicholson, so the Three Personages might also be read as her 3 children. Hepworth was also really inspired by standing stones and Neolithic sites which she might have encountered in the landscape around her in Cornwall in the Penwith Peninsula. She had a studio at St Ives, and she wrote about how standing stones in the landscape could be interpreted as figures. So here we have the link with personages and standing stones. But Hepworth was also really interested in prehistoric, pre-Christian religion and mysticism, so that really comes into this fascination with standing stones that she had. The link to the Cornish landscape is also very clear in Three Personages, in the choice of stone that she uses. She uses this black slate, which is very unusual in her work. And this came from a local quarry, the Delabole quarry, and it was actually the only local stone that she used in her work. And she found that if she took the stone from very deep in the quarry, where the stone was very dense, she could get this incredibly hard black stone that you see here in Three Personages. So the sculpture was acquired in 1969 by Jim Eade, the creator of Kettle's Yard. And Hepworth and Eade had known each other since actually 1928, when they both lived in Hampstead in London. But there weren't any works by Hepworth in the Kettle's Yard collection. We know from letters, however, that Hepworth was really keen to have a work of hers in the Kettle's Yard collection. And this came at a particularly interesting time in Kettle's Yard's history, because in 1970, the year after Jim Eade purchased the work, this extension that we're sitting in was opened, this kind of modernist extension designed by the architect Sir Leslie Martin, which presents this real contrast with the older cottages that formerly made up Kettle's Yard. So we can imagine that the sculpture was kind of purchased with this space in mind, and we can actually see that Jim has given it this sort of purpose-built plinth on the mezzanine overlooking the space below, which just kind of goes to show the importance that the sculpture has in the Kettle's Yard collection.